Hi, everybody. This is Dan and Chris back for another episode of A Father's Love Healing Through Heartache. And Chris and I haven't talked for a while, so we're good. We're glad to be back on the camera and just see each other and catch up with what life is throwing at us. Chris, how you doing, my friend?
Good. How you doing, Dan?
Same old, right?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
I know. I guess with what we're talking about, maybe we'll do a little warning for everybody. If just about some triggers. Chris, you want to share what's coming up this week just so people know at the time that this airs, it'll have passed, but who knows what'll come out this during this episode.
Yeah, Mason's birthday is coming up in 2 days, so yeah, I mean, I've definitely been feeling it. I can feel it coming, and you can feel the buildup. It's kind of if you haven't experienced it, it's kind of hard to really explain, to be honest. And uh, it's a bit of anxiety, a bit of sadness, and I'm not at the point yet where, like I've heard from others, the birthday celebration is really a time to remember all the greatness. I mean, of course, I will remember all the greatness of Mason, but I still have a lot of sadness associated with the birthday. So, that's coming up. So I might talk about that a little bit today. We'll see. We'll kind of just play it by ear as we roll.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to discuss something that I've been interested in talking about for a while. I have begun following Paula Ferris, who used to be on Good Morning America on the weekends, and I think it was right at the beginning of COVID, just decided she wasn't very happy with the way her life was going. And she came down to South Carolina to visit her sister. And while on that trip, she and her husband had talked, and they decided just flat out, we're not going back to New York City. And she quit her job and literally did not go to back to New York City to pack, to sell her house, or anything. They stayed there, and I guess they hired everything out. And they're living in South Carolina now. And she has begun her own podcast, and she's beginning her own company now, working on more what people's callings are, trying to get people to live life to the fullest with a great impact. And that has really resonated with me for many reasons. First of all, the courage it took for her to just literally not go back and just turn her life around. But also, she made a statement right away in one of her original podcasts. She just simply asked, in raising your kids, instead of asking the question that we all do, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? She asked the question, who do you want to be when you grow up? And that has just really resonated with me in raising Reese, because it changes the focus from a career to our character and our attitude and our impact. And so that really struck me. And then the third thing that struck me with her was I was listening to her podcast, and she had Jason Williams, the former Duke point guard, on her show. And when he left Duke, he had I think it was a $7 or $8 million contract. His life was set financially. And I think it was after his first year or during his first year, he broke the rules of his contract and he got on his motorcycle and he was speeding after a game and he ended up crashing into a tree and broke his leg and many other bones, and he was not doing well, and it ended his career. And he was on this podcast, and the thing that he said that stuck out the most to me, and again, his accent was 100% his fault, but he asked the question, why not me? Instead of sitting there wallowing in the self pity about my basketball career is over, all the money he's going to lose over the course of the career, just everything, and just moping about that, he shifted his mindset to one of, okay, this happened to me. Instead of worrying about why me, I'm going to focus on why not me and what can I do with this negative thing. And that struck me, obviously, with Jameson and Mason, in that it's easy and natural for us to think, why me? Why my family? What did we do wrong to deserve this? But that mind shift of this happened to us and it's awful, but what are we going to do with it? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today, Chris, if that's okay with you, and any opening thoughts you have.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I mean, it's as I think about it here and as I hear you talking, like, why not me? It is a mindset you have to change, right? Because it is so easy to slip into that why me, woe is me mentality when such a tragedy hits you, like losing a loved one or losing your child. And I feel like we'll get into it more, but yeah, I'm ready to talk about it. It's a good topic, and I hopefully some people will get some things out of it and uh, help some people out.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, I'll let you get into it. I'll just add one more thing. I think for me today, as I'm thinking about my progression since Jameson passed, there's definitely a God component, a huge God component. So I think today's episode, at least for me, is probably going to have a lot to do with my belief in God and my faith. But Chris, if you want to dive in with whatever you were
Yeah, sure.
thinking.
Yeah, yeah. I think the religion component really does. You know, I don't want to steal any thunder from you, but as a very Catholic person who goes to church often, I did when Mason first passed. I did do all the normal grief stages of like over the bartering and the why and I'll do this, please don't let him pass. That was all before he passed. And then when he did pass, um, actually I'm trying to change that verbiage, so correct me if I say it wrong. I'm not trying to say that he passed anymore. I'm trying to say when Mason went to heaven. I'm trying to make it more of a not that it's a positive that he's not here, but that his death wasn't such a negative. I'm trying to make it for my own mental sake. So when Mason went to heaven, um, yeah, I played the why us card pretty hard. I think that's pretty natural for most people. What you know, you see all the bad in the world, and you wonder, why would that happen to me when there's all this bad in the world, and I'm a fairly good person? So why is this happening to me? I think that's something I struggled with for a while. For me, I really just thought, and as I keep going forward, I really think more about what Mason would want from us as a family. And I think that's what kind of helps me um, push forward. Mason really wouldn't want us to be down in the dumps and sad all the time because that's just not who he was as a kid. He was very happy, loving, outgoing. He's definitely, the most outgoing in the family. Could easily go up to any kid and just start playing with them. In fact, when he went to heaven, it was actually hard for my other sons to get friends because Mason he was usually the one that got the friends, and then all the other boys started playing with those kids, and it just sort of worked out that way. So there was a component from when he went to heaven of readjusting our family dynamics. But as I think about it, like Mason wouldn't want us to be like that, and I know he wouldn't. I just feel it in my bones. Kind of a thing, Dan, you might feel too. Like as a parent, you just have these like you just know, you know what I mean? You just could just feel it. And I just knew Mason wouldn't want us to be sad all the time, down in the dumps all the time. And, really, what do we do with it from there, right? For us, well, for me specifically, that's where this podcast started coming, where I met Dan and we started collaborating and doing this. And It was to help me, but it was also to try to help others the best we possibly can. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if we'd actually have any listeners. I think it was more like, hey, let's just do this for us and see where it rolls. But as we've been doing it, and people, onesie twosies here reach out for help or say, hey, your podcast really made a difference for me today. Thanks for doing it. I felt pretty good. Like, you know what? I didn't waste the opportunity of the cards that were dealt to me. Right? I could have. I could have been like, I'm just going to be a miserable person for the rest of my life because Mason went to heaven, and uh, now I only have my three sons here with me instead of my four. But we took this opportunity to do this podcast, and it helped somebody. And I'm still working on the Miles for Mason Foundation. But I was just actually discussing with Dan kind of the game plan going forward. So I have a game plan with that. So I'm hoping by the end of the year or early January, everything should be up and running. So that way, as we get into 2022, we can have that rolling and trying to help people with that. And it is so easy to just say, like, I'm done. But man, I think it kind of comes down to, I don't want to say mental toughness, but you have to be able to overcome the grief. You have to want more for your family, want more for me, it really was wanting more for the memory of Mason. I didn't want Mason to just be remembered as someone that passed away from Ada. That's not what I wanted. If I can have Mason's memory attached to this podcast or his foundation or helping other people, I'm not going to say it makes it worth it, but it makes a better from the bad situation. So, Dan, I'm going to throw it your way as I kind of compose my thoughts a little bit more with that.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think everybody who is grieving the loss of anybody, not just a child, um, we all know that feeling of initial shock and agony and disbelief that our loved one or our friend is gone. And for me, the starting point where there were two things that kind of kicked it off that I needed to change my mindset. First of all, was all the different Facebook support groups and everything were filled with people whose comments were, I'm literally, one person wrote, I'm 20 years in and I still can't get out of bed. And Erica and I read that and we looked at each other and we both said, even in, I mean, this was on day 1 or 2 where the intensity of the pain was obviously at its highest. And we looked at each other and just thought, there is no way that we're going to be like that. We've got to figure out a way to get, I don't like the word better, but to get better, at least have some improvement. And so that right away kind of got me thinking of this whole, okay, why me versus why not me? What can we do with it? And then if we go back to Jameson's friend Caden, who was my first ever podcast episode, he's the one that started Jameson's Joy. And when I talked to him, just listening to this little boy who acts like a young man and how he took Jameson's death and immediately turned it into a positive thing at school by instituting a random acts of kindness day. And he's the one that gave us the idea to do it, that turned out to be hundreds of random acts of kindness all over the world on the day of Jameson's service. And then that was the day that somebody hashtagged Jameson's Joy. And I still have no idea who in the Brevard community created that hashtag, but Caden and that person are responsible for Jameson's Joy being created, because it showed me in our worst time of our lives that people do care, and there is this opportunity for us to try to make something good come out of Jameson going to heaven. And I'm going to try to use that too, Chris. I like it. Um, because, yeah, just reading these support groups and these people that have not healed at all. And there's never full healing, but it seems like if you read their words for what exactly their words say, they haven't taken any steps forward. And Jameson's Joy helps do that, and it helps create Jameson's memory, keeps his legacy alive, and yeah, we're helping people, even if it's one person. We're helping people. So I don't. I'm not strong enough to do it. That's definitely something where God comes um, in that. If it were me and Erica, we very probably would be still hiding in our house, not doing anything. But that's one of the things that keeps my belief in God going stronger is that yeah, we are surrounded by people that he's put in our lives that can help carry us through the rough times and help us make Jameson's Joy more successful. So, Chris, I definitely at some point I want you to talk about the notes that you're getting about the podcast because we've both received a few. And I think those are great examples of had Chris and I not done this. And again, we started it just to talk to each other and we hoped that somebody would listen and maybe help somebody. And it's turning out that we're actually helping a lot of other people.
Yeah, I mean, it's very humbling when someone sends you a message um, on Facebook or any of the social medias and says, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. I looked your name up once I listened, and it really helped me through the day. It helped me understand that I'm not alone, that there's other dads out there that understand the pain I'm going through, and it just whether it's the first time. A lot of times when they message me, I don't know if it's the same with you, Dan. It's the first time that they actually start talking about their loved one that passed away, and um, I don't want to. Dan and I are not doctors in any sense. We don't have any professional training. We just have the real world experience, right? Which, in my opinion, might be better than any kind of doctor's degree you can get. And so it's easy for us to have an attachment with these people pretty quickly because we understand the extreme pain and grief that they're going through. And for whatever reason, I know we've discussed before, some dads not feeling like they can open up about their feelings or their emotions, but they feel more comfortable doing it with another dad that has been through it and understands what they're going through. And that's the majority of the ones I've been getting is this is the first time they start talking about their loved ones and opening up. And um, as I've talked to some other dads, there's one dad I've recently just started talking to. He he's kind of doing the same thing as us, Dan, a little bit different though. He's doing it on TikTok. The app, have you seen? You know what TikTok
Mm-hmm.
is?
Yeah. I'm not
So
that old, Chris. Come on, bud.
I mean, I don't use TikTok, but I know a lot of people do use TikTok, and he does these little 1 or 2 minute quick little videos on TikTok talking about his daughter that passed away. And I thought that was pretty cool. That's a way to get his story out, his daughter's story out, and and talk to people about grief. And so, you know, kind of like we were talking about before, he's doing something to try to make the best of the worst situation possible. And but those messages, it always um, makes me feel good. Like Dan and I made the right choice, and we're making the best of our worst situation, trying to help others. And I hope those messages keep coming. I mean, I don't want them to come, but I know they're inevitable. Just the way the world is. So, what about you, Dan? What were some of yours?
I mean, you just hit it where I haven't had anybody say this to me directly, but I know I mean, just statistically, there has to be at least some person in my network that has the thoughts of how you're parading Jameson's death around. You're like, shouldn't you be more upset and not getting out there so publicly with it? And I think that's a great example of why not me. Of, again, I could just hide, but then I feel like I'll be one of those people that 20 years down the road is talking to somebody that just lost their child and I'm doing nothing to help them. So I'm not, well, maybe I am parading Jameson and his name all around, but I'm not going to regret it at all because, first of all, it keeps his memory alive. It helps us when people talk about him, but again, it's helping somebody somewhere. And I take that. That's another one of those things I give the credit to God on that because I'm not strong enough to do it, but I'm not afraid. Anybody that knows me knows I'm not afraid to speak my mind. And even when it gets me in trouble a lot of times, I'm gonna say what I have to say because I think keeping things bottled up inside of you does not help anything. Just on a daily basis, at work, even if something's going wrong and we don't say something, how is it ever going to be fixed? And in this situation where it's such a obviously such a magnified story, I just I'm not afraid to talk about it. And hopefully it does help people.
Yeah, and I think besides the podcast, me talking about it with coworkers very often, talking about other aspects as well, right? Like I'm very willing to talk about that. I go to mental health doctors to get assistance, right? We talk about Mason, and as time has gone on, it's progressed into other areas in my life that I felt that I needed to discuss. And to be honest, it's been great. And I talk it up to everyone I talk to. I have coworkers. I could just tell something was wrong. I bring it up to them. I talk to them. You obviously have to build that relationship and that trust where they are willing to talk to you. But, as you talk to them and you hear their stories and what they're going through, and, I just recommend going to the doctor and saying, hey, trust me when I say you're going to feel a lot better that first time you talk about it. And then as you keep going more and more and more, just like you said, Dan, keeping it bottled up, wow, it eats away at you. It eats at your soul. Um, so for me, I always am an advocate for going to some sort of mental health or counseling or grief counseling, whatever the person, chaplain, priest, whatever people feel comfortable with. Um, to just talk about it. And I don't want to say, well, I don't know, maybe it's hard because you don't want to think that, like, I don't want to think that God took Mason to heaven so that I could help these other people. That's just not, I don't want to think that, but maybe Dan, you and I, because of our personalities and who we are, I don't, maybe that was the plan. I don't know. I don't know if that was the plan, but we're willing to help other people and others aren't. And maybe that's the hard part about it. And it's kind of a tough pill to swallow as I sit here and kind of think about it. As that's kind of the first time I thought about it like that. But um, yeah, Dan.
I've had that exact same thought that I mean, I've gone through God's punishing me, and He took Jameson to punish me for things I do. Um, and I think often about the fact that, yeah, maybe God allowed Jameson to join Him earlier than we would like because Jameson's work was already done here. Everybody he touched was happier because of him. And he's in heaven now. He accepted Jesus and he was probably our strongest Christian in our household with his belief. And if he was here on Earth, maybe his impact wouldn't have been as great as it is now that he's not here, and it's up to us to help carry the load now and finish what Jameson started. Um, and I hate that thought, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's hard because, as Christian Ben, and we think about it, like, you just don't think like that's how God works, right? But God works in those ways that we'll never understand. It's just not humanly possible for us to understand. So I try to trust in the plan the best I can, even though I don't know the plan, and hope for the best. Except for losing Mason, I could say that I've had a pretty great life. I don't have anything negative about it. So, there's got to be a reason. We don't know the reason. We're never going to know the reason until we're up there with them. I kind of just think now, like, well, at least Mason's not in school. I know he's just having fun doing whatever the heck he wants. He's not stuck in school every day, which he hated. He absolutely hated going to school because he always wanted to be outside playing. And um, kind of tell ourselves these things, not to convince ourselves, but to hope for the best. And that's kind of how I'm rolling with it. So, um, but why not us? I mean, back to that question, why not us? I, it's got to be a mentality change, right? You have to, and it's going to be hard. So for those of you that listen, if you're going through grief, um, Dan and I aren't going to try and sugarcoat it and say that it's easy. It's not. Even all these years in for Dan, and I'm almost to my 2-year mark, it's still not easy. But I would rather be helping someone however I can than laying in bed all day doing nothing, feeling bad that Mason isn't there. And you got to ask yourself that question. It might be a hard question. You might have to literally go look in a mirror in your bathroom and say, is this how I want to live the rest of my life? Is this how my loved one would want me to live the rest of my life? And that might be a hard conversation you have to have with yourself. But I can guarantee you this, and Dan can probably attest. That first person you help, man, you're going to feel good. You feel really good knowing you helped someone else get through that moment. So if you need to go look at yourself in the mirror and ask those tough questions, it might be time to do that.
Yeah, and I think this message has absolutely nothing to do with grief. Uh, yeah, when you go look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that question, I mean, yeah, ponder it no matter what stage of life you're in of what can you do right now to help somebody else. And that's definitely one of the things that has become easier for me. I'm selfish. I've always been selfish, but I hope in the last 2.5 years that I'm less selfish. I think I've grown some in that area because losing Jameson here on Earth has made me aware of how special our time is. And little things don't bug me as much anymore. I'm not wasting as much time doing a lot of things that I used to do, and just every day people go through life worrying so much about stupid little things that have no impact on anything outside of that little 5-minute window. And I hope that that's one of the biggest messages I want to get to people is whatever stage you're in your life, why not you? Why can't you go do something to change somebody's life right now? And do it while you're strong and whole and not grieving the loss of a child. Because as Chris just said, yeah, obviously losing a child is the hardest thing we've ever been through in our life. So don't wait until those moments of tragedy to make an impact on people. You can do it right now because there is somebody in your house, there is somebody in your office, there's somebody on the street that you're going to walk by that needs your ear to listen to them, just to get out whatever they're going through. Um, I still firmly believe that one of the messages Chris received was from a guy that was on the brink of suicide. And to think that Chris listening to that man very possibly saved his life is what an enormous feeling of gratitude that Chris was there for that man just to listen. But we all have things all day, every day that we have those moments that we can turn these negative, meaningless situations into something more productive and positive.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that conversation you were discussing, and yeah, I mean, man, they're hard conversations to have sometimes with people too. If you're listening and you haven't dealt with grief, you shouldn't be afraid sometimes to ask those hard questions. If you have that feeling of that someone might hurt themselves or something like that, please do not be afraid to straight up. Well, I have asked this question a lot. In the military. There is a bit of a suicide problem in the military, and we are given a lot of training on um, suicide prevention and helping our airmen or our troops um, get through those tough moments. Um, and every single time I've asked if someone was thought, you're very blunt and you straight up ask them, are you thinking about killing yourself or committing suicide? Every time that I've asked that question, you're going to know right away in your gut. Uh, if they are, they can't hold it in because they every single time I've asked, if the person really was, they burst out crying. And then we get them the help right away that they need. Um, so, you know, we're a little bit, I hope we're not off tangent too much, but throwing a little suicide prevention briefing in here for everyone. And, don't be afraid to ask those hard questions of, um, and if you're the person that maybe are thinking about suicide, um, please reach out. I promise you, someone will listen. I 100% know. If you don't even know who to talk to, you can go to the ER. Literally, you can go to the emergency room and tell them, and they will get you the help you need. You can call 911. You can call. You can message Dan or I. We'll get you help. There's 1-800 numbers for suicide prevention. Dan and I will get those, and we'll make sure we get that info out to you. But don't do it. Please reach out. There is help, and think about. I think for me, think about your loved one. Right? It is sad. It is hard that they're not there with you anymore. But kind of like we're talking about today, how do you want to react to that? How do you want to go forward with it? Let's try to help someone. Maybe you going through this and considering suicide, you could become a counselor yourself and help other people that are having that feeling. Something like that. There's so many options. So just want to throw that in there, Dan.
Yeah, and I do. I think it's one example out of the billion that we could give today of the fact that every single person has a skill or a talent or a personality trait, whatever it is, that we can make a difference in somebody's life. And again, I'm thankful for everybody that can make a positive difference in somebody's life without having to go through the hell of losing a child. I encourage you to look for those opportunities and take advantage of them now while everything is going well. But there's people that are going through a lot of bad stuff in this world. And again, this isn't just grief of losing a child, it's grief of losing anybody, it's financial loss, it's alcoholism, it's COVID, it's whatever. People are hurting. And I don't know if it's the majority. I don't have any statistics, but I have to imagine the majority of people are not comfortable sharing their hurt. And that's why I think we all need to look at ourselves in the mirror, like Chris was saying, and figure out, what can I do to help somebody? Because we all have that skill, that ear, and we're all connected with those people all day, every day. And you just don't know the impact that you can have. And it's a total mindset shift. And that's what I said at the beginning. And that's why I'm thankful that I listened to Jason Williams say that, because again, his accident was 100% his fault. He caused the world that he's living in right now. Chris and I obviously didn't, and every other grieving person listening to this show, we didn't cause the fact that our kids are no longer with us on earth. But I hope that we all can find that strength to shift the mindset from total pain and destruction of our lives to, how can I use it? As awful as this is, yeah, why not me? What can I do with it?
Yeah, it's as you are looking yourself in the mirror, right? Really, it's hard. I know I said it before, but you really have to ask yourself the hard questions. And um, getting to that point where you want to help people, it can be hard. It First off, it could be hard for the mere sense that some people just aren't that kind of people where they like to step out and meet other people that they don't know. So that could be something that could be very hard. Um, it's something you might have to force yourself to do the first couple times. But it's like anything, practice makes perfect. And as you keep doing it more and more, it becomes so second nature. You don't even realize it. Where you to the point where you start helping people, and you're not even thinking that you're helping them. You think you're just living your normal everyday life. To be honest with you, um, and yeah, you're gonna feel good. And really, that's all we can ask in these hard times, right? Between COVID and the crazy world we're in, and the grief you're going through, just that moment of feeling better could make all the difference. So, um, with that, Dan, I'm going to wrap up my stuff. I don't have anything else to add. I hope people, if you're listening, if you need some ideas of what you can do, shoot Dan or myself a message. We're both very involved with the community, our communities, and I have no doubt that we could help you come up with an idea of how you can help others around you while you're going through your grief.
Yeah.
Dan?
And I want to lay out a challenge to everybody listening. Whether this is on YouTube, you can leave a comment, you can leave it on the Facebook page, email us, whatever. Whether you're grieving somebody or not, I want to challenge everybody to go have that conversation with yourself in the next day or so, and come back and leave a comment or send us a note letting us know an area that you think you can go make a difference in somebody else's life. Because again, I'm hopeful that we have some listeners here who aren't going through really rough times like so many of our listeners are. So hopefully you can find something while life is going well for you. And I'm going to challenge everybody to do that. And to our fellow grieving dads who, you're in the same boat that we are, we get it. Give that some thought and see, let Chris and I know, let yourself know, and let the other dads listening know how you think you might be able to change your mindset and do something to help somebody else, even though you may not want to while you're grieving. So Chris and I would love to hear it. But we want to thank everybody again, as always, for listening. We love the feedback when you send it. If you do have feedback for any of our episodes, please send it. It encourages us, or it helps us grow and make it better and more effective. So please send it and share it with other people. Anybody that you know that's grieving, we think would benefit from at least one of the episodes that we've done. But also, again, people who aren't grieving, we feel like there's a lot in there for everybody to learn something. So share it, give us our feedback, and let us know how we can do better. Chris, any last words?
No, I think, great episode. I hope everyone listening gets something out of it. And like we said, we really would love the feedback, especially if there's an idea of a podcast you would like us to discuss. We would love to hear that as well. Dan and I have ideas. We always have something we can talk about. There's no problem there. But of course, we love hearing from the listeners. So if there's something specific you want to hear, by all means, send us a message, and we will definitely do our due diligence to get that episode in.
Awesome.
But with that, that's all I got, Dan.
Great. And I think it's a great time for all this feedback to come, because we're right in the holiday season where Chris and I haven't talked, but not sure if we're going to release any new episodes in December or if we'll wait to the new year. But so there's definitely going to be a little bit of a gap in here. So it's a great time to have conversations with anybody. If you have ideas for us of what to talk about, things that we can help you implement, any other fellow grieving dads, moms, anybody that want to join us, let us know. We still have a list of dads that we're going through that we need to reach out and get in touch with them, but we'd love to hear from you. So with that, everybody, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. Make it a wonderful day. I guess let's shift that mindset of, instead of having a wonderful day, that's not in your control. Make it a wonderful day and put it in under your control. And we'll see you next time on A Father's Love, Healing Through Heartache.